Hi everyone, my name is Kendall Huggs, and this is my final presentation for EDU 352. For this class, I participated in the alternative TWS assignment, as there were many conflicts that I ran into when trying to teach the 5 lessons. There were several days where there were holidays or in service, and it was just hard to be able to teach for the full 5 days. So for this presentation, I'm going to talk about the 5 key takeaways that I discovered while being placed in this class. And for this class, I was placed at Parkview Elementary in Dillon, Montana, with Mrs. Miles's first grade class. So for the first one that I'm going to talk about is Mrs. Miles's positive reinforcement that she implements in her classroom. As you can see in the left-hand corner, there is a picture that I uploaded. There are 5 different categories for this reward system. There are good listener, hard worker, responsible, kind, and best work. As you can see, each category has a color associated with it. When a child participates or completes one of these actions, they are rewarded with a popsicle stick. At the bottom of this picture, I have covered up each child's name with a circle just to protect their identity, but you can tell that some of those pockets, there are popsicle sticks in them. At the end of the week, they all have a punch card, and Mrs. Miles will call them up one by one, and we will hole punch the appropriate amount of sticks that they have earned, and once they have filled up their punch card, they receive a prize, or they can choose to show and tell, sit in the teacher's chair, or pajama day. So she just has some fun activities and rewards for students that fill up their punch card. I just really like that she uses positive reinforcement rather than negative reinforcement, just because this awards good behavior and it shows the other students what the expectations are. And oftentimes when they are given a reward for good behavior, it encourages the other students to want to follow in those footsteps. On to the right-hand side, there is a thing that not just Mrs. Miles implements, but the whole school, and they're called toodles. These toodles are the opposite of a tattle. So this just kind of goes along with the positive reinforcement and takes away that negative and just replaces it with something a little more joyful. So what are toodles? Students will write these to one another if they are thankful for something that they did, or if they were showing good leadership skills. This is also given to a student when they are making the classroom a better place. So it can also be given from a teacher to a student, and then they are recognized the next day over morning announcements. And this just kind of encourages students to want to be a better person and help their fellow classmates. And as you can see on that last bullet point, it says showing PAX. I will talk about what PAX is in our next slide, and then you'll understand. So for our next one, I'm going to talk about the classroom management that not only Miss Miles uses, but the whole school as well. So they incorporate this program called PAX. PAX stands for Peace, Productivity, Health, and Happiness. This teaches students how to self-regulate, which leads to less disruptions. When trying to get the students' attention, instead of using a harsh sound or a bell, teachers use calming voices and harmonicas just as a peaceful sound, and students respond with a peace sign and they hold it above their heads. This tells the students that their voices need to be off, they need to stop what they're doing, and they need to focus on what the teacher is talking about. And I talked to Principal Fitzgerald, and he told me that this classroom management program has been established in the school for about 4 years. And he said within those 4 years, behavior issues have significantly decreased. So as you can tell from the picture that I've uploaded, this classroom has a PAX vision. At the beginning of the year, they talk about what they want to see more of and what they want to see less of. And then on the left-hand side, there is a paper that says our classroom goals. This is a contract that Mrs. Miles typed up, and each student had to agree to follow these rules. As you can tell, there is a shape placed over the bottom and the top of it. This is just to protect the identity of the students and their signatures. One other thing that I like about this is there are consequences, but they are very positive as well. So students get three chances. They get a reminder or a redirect, which basically means a warning. So they get warned to stop the behavior that they're doing, um, and choose a more appropriate way to handle things. The second reminder, they have to go to think time. And this might sound negative, but it's not like a timeout. Students go to a designated area in the classroom and they think about their actions and what they can do to improve it. Once they are ready to join the circle, they can come back whenever they feel. So they are not held there. They are there to think about how they can improve, and they are free to come back whenever they feel like it. It can be 30 seconds or it can be 10 minutes. Um, and then the third warning, a note goes home to the parents. All right, for our next thing, this is something that I wasn't prepared for after being placed in the classroom. So something I wasn't prepared for is how much money I will spend on my own materials. I mean, I always knew that I was going to have to spend my own money for some things, but I did not realize the extent of the items that I will have to purchase for my classroom. So, Mrs. Miles told me that each teacher at Parkview gets a $200 budget. And so at the beginning of the year, they will fill out a form and they will be given the opportunity to purchase things with this money. Usually, Mrs. Miles uses this money for things that are disposable, and then she uses her own money for things that can be used over and over again. So this school provides some furniture and rugs, but in the case of another school, that might not always be the case. Um, so some things that we're responsible for are pencil boxes, books, manipulatives, crafts, lessons not included with the curriculum, um, just all kinds of stuff like this. There are so many awesome things that Mrs. Miles has in her classroom that she bought with her own money, and it just kind of made me stop and think that maybe I should start accumulating these things and kind of prepping for when I do get a teaching job so I don't have an empty classroom. All right, for our next thing, I'm going to talk about the doubles, wraps, and shapes. So it's not just this, but I really love the songs and rhymes that this classroom implements for students to remember important concepts. So these are just three pictures that I took from the classroom and ways that students can remember things. So for example, the doubles wrap. When I first started here at Parkview, they were learning their doubles. Um, so they'd be sitting down on the carpet and they memorize these facts using a doubles wrap. So basically you can see what it says here, but it's just 0 plus 0 equals 0. Oh, 1 plus 1 equals 2. Ooh, and it just keeps going on and on. And these songs help them to remember. So when they're able to do math sheets on their own, they can think back to this math wrap and they can use these helpful tools to help them figure out how to do the problems. And so you can just see that there are signs posted all around the classroom to help with things. So for example, Tommy Triangle, proud as can be, count my sides, 1, 2, 3. And this just kind of helps them to remember what shapes there are. And like I said, these are just three of the many amazing songs and poems that is implemented in this classroom. Uh, but I just really liked these ones, and if I had more time, I would love to share a lot more. Okay, so my last slide, I'm going to talk about the eye-opening experience that I got with being placed at Parkview. I was very intimidated at first, as I have always worked with rule settings. Um, I've always wanted to teach in a classroom that had, 5 or fewer students. But after being placed in this bigger classroom, she has 17 students. Um, I have realized that it's actually not as bad as I thought, and I honestly kind of preferred it. There was more diversity in the classroom and a lot more opportunities for discussion. I just kind of thought that it was easier for students to interact with one another with more kids in the classroom versus the fewer. And this also gives students the opportunity to learn from their peers. I thought it was cool seeing students interact with one another and learning from each other. But these are the 5 things that I learned from Parkview, and I thank you for your time listening, and I can't wait to listen to all of your guys' responses.